Hello, welcome back. This is Jeff Byers. This is Annie 150 and Module 2 where we're texturing our food can, getting the Substance Painter baked maps all working. We basically got the textures on, the UDIMs are showing, and we did our first real quick render. And we're not even close to finishing this yet. So the next thing we're going to do is we are now in Photoshop, and I really don't care if you're using Photoshop or you're using GIMP or you're using Sketchbook, or you use whatever is comfortable for you. But the idea is I don't support anything else but Photoshop. So if you ask me a question, how do you do it in Sketchbook, how do you do it in GIMP, I won't be able to answer that question. So please understand that I don't support any other software than Maya, Mudbox, Substance Painter, and Photoshop. So I'm not really versed in anything outside of that. I know a little bit about Softimage. I know a little bit about 3ds Max. I know a lot about ZBrush. I've even used Blender, but I really don't. Photoshop is the creme de la creme as far as photo manipulation. I do use Painter, Corel Painter, which I love for artwork, but Photoshop is it, and you can't dispute that. So we're going to use it. And so the idea here is I found my source images folder, so you guys got to understand that when you create your projects in Maya, I created this right in front of you in the video, and I created a folder, and I created all the subfolders that go in there. It does it automatically for you when you actually create a project. Please watch my first video, and that helps you through all that. But you put all your textures, all your texture files need to go in source images. I've been telling you guys that all along. And your scenes go in the scenes folder, and your rendered images go in the images folder. Okay, when you render files, those go in the images folder. Okay, so those are the three folders that you really got to remember. Okay, so every time I grab a texture, I usually will put them right in the source images folder and not even think about it. I even put my HDR image in here, the small cathedral. Okay, so I've got three of these can labels that I found online that I'm going to be using. I'm going to be using this one, and nothing's free anymore. And what I suggest you do is go ahead and peel off a label off of a can at home or something like that, and go ahead and photograph it and use that. But this is all I've got. I got these old ones, which is fine, not a big deal. So I'm going to use this one right here. So that'll be fun. I mean, even though it's cropped off, I might have to fix that. But other than that, I think we're good to go. Okay. So I'm going to crop this off a little bit and see if we can get it to fit, and what we need to do next. Okay, so I'm going to go File, Open, and you can see that I've got Food Can UDIM. Now these are the images that I saved when I clicked on Snapshot. So if I go back to Maya, let me take you through that really quick again, if you forgot. So I've got my can, and we just finished putting the Substance Painter textures on it. And if you go in UV Editor, you can see that here are the images. Now let's go ahead and take off that. Now that's with the color on, so let's turn that off. So this is what my original UDIM tile looks like. So we've got the label, and we've got the metal part, the top of the can and the sides of the can. Alright, so those are working great. Okay, everything works great. And when I click on this, this is the UV shell. What I have to do is I have to fit that dog label on this perfectly. Okay, so to do that, I had to take a snapshot. So I clicked on this. Remember when I did that? I clicked the snapshot, and we did all this together. If you follow my videos, you did this too. You just have to remember, where did you put it, right? Where did you put that? I know exactly where I put it, right? And I moved it from the images folder to my source images folder. Okay, I did that on my own. Okay, so I went ahead and apply and close. You got to make sure there's a couple things you need to do. If you forgot to do this, you can do that now. But you need to be in object mode, okay, for it to work. For the snapshot to work, you got to be in object mode. And when you click on that, you got to tell it where you'd like it to go, and when you click on browse, you can tell it what you want to call it, right? So, and the size is 2048 by 2048. And so you apply and close, and you're good to go. Okay, it'll save it out. Let me go ahead and close that. And it will look like this. It's going to break it into two pieces because it's a UDIM. So food can UDIM, UV, U1, V1. So I'm going to click on food can. Click on open. And it's quite simple. You do what you want with this, right? With this right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag and drop this. Okay. And I'm going to hold the shift key down and drag and drop this in here. And you can see that it's quite a bit smaller than the image. Well, you know, just for sake of argument, I should have got a larger image, but we're going to deal with what we have, right? And plus, you're going to see my finished label is going to be a little bit different online next week than this. This is just an example. I'm not going to use this. But you surely can if you want to. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and hit Control T. I'm running Camtasia, and it's like super slow. Okay, and so it's not going to be the right proportion. So what I'm going to do is go back a little bit here and stretch that out. I'm holding the shift key down. Here we go. Now I'm not sure where we're at with this, so I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. And I'm going to go into here, my layers, and just turn down the opacity here a little bit so I can see through it. And make sure I don't have any white areas around here. And if it looks like I'm up a little bit too high. Okay. And let's go ahead and shorten that up a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and go Control key, T again, Control T. Hold the Shift key down and maybe move this down just a little bit, like that. Again, it's hard to tell where we're at with this. I'm going to move that back and forth. Okay. So I'm going to move that up just a little bit more. I'm going to nudge it now. That's the arrow key up. I'm going to nudge that up. Here we go. I think we're good there. In the bottom, we've got a little bit of black. I'm going to nudge that a little bit higher. And at the bottom, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add another layer here and put that on top, and I'm going to go ahead and do a little doctoring here. Let's bring this back up a little bit like that. And let's get in there and sample that. I'm going to get it really close to that one. And let's go ahead and fill that real quick. Alright, so it makes it a little bit, I know there's a little discrepancy here, but I think that's okay. And then let me bring this back and forth again because I'm a little bit worried about that corner right here. So I'm going to move it down. I'm going to use the nudging tool and move that down. There we go. I think that's good. Good enough. Let's go ahead and bring it back up. Okay. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to save that as... Okay, let's go into JPEG. Actually, let's use PNG because it's going to fit what we have here. So I'm going to replace this one right here. I never want to use that again. I mean, that's the base color we have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that. You can see it's the base color. I'm going to call it exactly the same, so so I'm trying to confuse it here. And I've got this somewhere else too. If I'm worried about this, I can go ahead and before I do this, I can copy this and put this on my desktop. Just paste it on there. You don't know what I'm doing because I'm just copying and pasting it on my other. I got 2 screens, so that's what I did. And then this one here, I'm gonna take what I've done. I'm just clicking on this. I'm gonna replace that color, base color. So I just clicked on the base color that I have in Maya now. This is what I've got in Maya now. I don't know if you're following me or not, but that's what I put on here, and it looks like this. Let me give you an example of that after I render it. It's just that plain color we had. I love the way it's the way it's shining a little bit there. It's got a little texture on it. That's pretty cool. Almost looks like paper, so this will work out great. So with that, you can see that I'm just going to replace it with that. So I'm going to replace it with what I just did here, okay, with that name. So I just click on it, and I'm going to click on Save. And it's going to come up with, do you want to replace it? Sure. Replace it, and it just saved it. Okay, so let's take a look at it now. So if I go back in here and go to File, Save As, and if I go to PNG, you're going to see there it is. So I replaced it. I'm going to fool Maya into thinking this is the base color, and all I have to do is regenerate that. So that's going to be kind of cool. So that's what I'll do. I'll go ahead and go back to Maya. Okay, before we go back into Maya, I will warn you that you cannot have Maya open because I had that texture open. So it won't save this image you just created because it had the image open in Maya. And so it's just going to spit it out and tell you can't do that. Some other program's using it. So you'll have to close Maya and save this and then open Maya back up and try again. And then it'll save just fine. Then when you open Maya up, then you're going to get, let's see here, where are we at? There we go. Now we got to reload this. So once you open this back up again, whenever you use UDIMs, you have to remember this, that if you save your work and you open it back up again and the textures are gone, you have to do this. You have to go Render, Viewport 2, and you have to go in here and click on Regenerate All UV Tile Preview Textures. There we go. And look what just happened. There's my doggy. That's awesome. Ta-da! So now I gotta rotate it so you can see him. Oh, isn't he nice? That's awesome. Okay, that looks pretty good actually. Pretty happy with that. And let's see if it's distorted in any way. And it looks pretty good. Let's take a look at a quick render. Shouldn't take too long. Oh yeah, look at that. Metz. All beef dog food. Yeah. Cool. It looks delicious. Alright. Looking pretty good. Even for a very, very quick render. Let's get a little closer and see if we can see any distortion. Another thing is I'm going to get your perspective set up pretty good here. So we want to see the top a little bit. We kind of want to show off our can, right? You did all that work. So let's go into your settings, render settings, and under common, we're going to keep that set up the way it is except for the bottom. We're eventually going to have to do HD 1080, but I'm not done with my lighting yet, so we'll keep that the way it is. At 540. I always do like preview renders at 540, which is really small, and get it all set up, and then I go, once I get it exactly tweaked out, and then I have to go for my final, I go to HD 1080, and when I do portfolio work I double that. Okay, so and then sometimes I do 4K. So Arnold renderer. Okay, we're at the very default settings, so we have a little bit of noise. And then the ray depth. I'm going to show you how to do optimal. This is what we're doing to getting our lighting and all the textures done. So we're not done with the textures yet. We're going to have to do the table. We want the table to look nice, that it's setting on. We're going to bring this into Substance Painter, knock that out real quick, and then bring it back in again. And then we're going to move on to full rendering. Okay, so we've got to take this step by step. And so the next step would be we're going to go ahead, and once we got done with render settings, I need to go in here and find out the resolution gate. So I'm going to click on the resolution gate. That tells me exactly what I'm seeing. So that's this guy right here. And you can turn that off and on. You can have the mask on. I'm going to keep the mask on. It says up here 1920 by 1080. And we're going to go into safe title and safe action. So safe title is the inner one, but I'm looking at the safe action. So the safe action is this one right here. This one right here. It's the outer one. The safe title is the inner one. I don't pay too much attention to the safe title, but the safe action I do. So I'm going to move it in and get it kind of set up. Okay, so we can get a better look at it. Maybe off a little bit like that. There we go. That looks really good. And do a render. I'm going to go ahead and pause this because it might take a while. Alright, so I just finished it rendering, and it rendered at 54 seconds, which is very reasonable and for a photorealistic image. So I'm very happy with the top of the can. There's some little things in here, but other than that, I think it looks pretty good. So that looks nice. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do 1:1, which even makes it bigger. So for that distance, that looks really good. Very happy with that. Alright, so go ahead and go 1:1 again, and if you want to save this as just a preview render, you can go to File, Save Image, and into the option box, Color Managed Image, okay, and apply and close. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to have you guys find a Substance Painter background you like to put as a ground plane. Okay, so it could be a tabletop or whatever you want to do, but the idea is to open up Substance Painter and find a texture, and we're going to do that really quick. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time doing that, so I'm going to go ahead and close this, and I think let's go ahead and save this. I didn't save the image, I just did color manage. It's really important that if you render out, I think we talked about this before, you want to make sure you have color manage image on, because raw image will make it really, really dark. So color managed image is good. And let's go ahead and go File, Save As, Save Image, and let's just call it Food Can Test. Okay, render. Alright, test render, we got that. Looks good. I'm going to pause the video and we're going to... Okay, we're back. Now we're going to go UV editor, and you can see that the tabletop that I have, just the plain, it's all UV mapped perfectly fine. So what I'm going to do with this is go ahead and make sure that's selected, object selected, and go to this, and we're going to do, it's going to be tiled 1 by 1. 2048, and let's do 2040 is fine, and browse where do I want to put it. Let's go to source images this time, keep it in there. We're going to call this flat plane food can. There we go. I'm going to put TX on there. There we go. So save that. There we go. And say apply and close. And close that. Now we don't have to worry about normalizing the faces or the vertices or the edges. We don't have to triangulate this because it's a primitive. and with primitives you don't really need to do that. It's only when you extrude stuff like we did with the can that it becomes a problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to File, Export Selection, and we're going to do a OBJ. Here we go. And Export Selection. And this is going to be our flat plane. Food can. There you go. Go ahead and save that out. And let's go ahead and bring up Substance Painter real quick. I'm going to pause it. Okay, and so I got it back again, and let's go ahead and File New, the usual stuff. PBR metallic roughness. And we're going to go in here and we've got our flat plane food can. We don't need we don't need a UDIM. We didn't use UDIM. It's just one texture. We're going to use 2048. I think I might even go. Let's go 49.6. It's just one image, so let's go to 49.6. And we don't need to create a UDIM set. It's just by itself. And click OK. Now you're not going to see it right away because it's a flat plane, so you have to hold down the Alt key and rotate it. And Substance Painter sees it. It's not double-sided, right? So Substance Painter sees it as just a flat image. So, alright, so I'm going to get it close, like what I would if I had the can on there. Okay, so the food can in there. So I'm just going to go in here and just have some fun. And I'm going to pause this video while I pick a surface for it, because I'm going to go really quickly with this. So I'm going to kind of find one that I like, and then I'll show you what I end up getting. Okay, so I've got a couple ideas here. I've got blue, gray marble, limestone, and I think I like the contrast between the can maybe and this. I think I'm going to do, see if I can do both, see which one I like better. But this one or this one, okay? That's what I'm thinking. And I doubt if you'll have these materials in there. I probably found these somewhere else, but so you have to get the scale right. So I'm going to go in here and just kind of change that scale to what I think would be correct on it. It's not too far off. And then I can offset it, move it around if I want to, find an interesting place for it. And then of course, rotation, however you want to rotate it. It's going to have a color, a rough, metal, and normal map, which is good because you can see some roughness in there. And so I'm good to go. Really happy with that. I think that looks pretty good. That slab looks nice. It looks really good. And I'll have to see how it looks. The shiny, it's shiny, it's a little bit shiny, so that's nice too at an angle. Okay, I think that'll look good. The only thing I worry about is the scale. I can't really tell without the can in there, but I think that's good. All right, so I'm going to go into File. This will be very easy. Export textures and PBR metal rough, dilation infinite. I'm going to do dilation diffusion. And I'm going to set this to 8. No, I don't want that. Cancel. Stop. Okay. I didn't want to do that just yet. Configuration. Arnold 5 UDIM. And that looks good. Maps look good. Need to put it in the right spot though. Let's go to Documents. Maya. Projects. And Source Images. And that should do it. It should bring all these down. It's going to be called Flat Plane Food Can. Let's go ahead and export. Alright, now we're ready. So I'm going to go ahead and stop Okay, wrote them all out, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and save this real quick. As food can table. Alright. That's good. And I'm going to click on this one, and I'm going to save that one out. And use the same exact, because we can't put it in the same spot, so I'm going to put this one in my images folder this time. And that's all set up, and everything's set up here. Don't have to do much. Get that set up. Export. Okay, we're all set. And now all I have to do is go back into Maya and get all of the maps on there correct. Let's go ahead and close that. We don't need this anymore. So with this selected, we need to add a texture. So we're going to go, I think I already did add a texture. Let's go ahead and go into it. So Control A, AI standard, there it is. And let's call this tabletop texture. Perfect. Let's just say TX on there. And enter. And then of course we'll do the usual stuff. We need to go into color, file, off. Let's do this quickly if I can. Base color. Right, that's base color. Oh, that looks pretty good. That might be nice. Might have to, I think I'm a little bit too close, like that. There we go. I'll make this look interesting. I'm going to do Control D and maybe have a couple of cans in here and just kind of show off the back of it as well, like that. And maybe just have one show off some other things. Control D. And have this one on its side. So I'm going to go into the side view. I'm going to type this in at -180. And that should be -90. There we go. And let's go ahead and place it right on the tabletop. Maybe even rotate it a little bit. Like that. That looks good. Perfect. So now we're going to get kind of a nice... let me rotate that a little bit more because I don't want to see that crease there. There we go. Move that around a little bit. There we go. So now we're staging our scene. There we go. That looks pretty good. And we get to see the top. Okay. Alright, so let's go ahead and finish this texture up because I'm not done with that. Control A. So we need the metalness in there. So let's go ahead and get that in there. And that's going to be off. And metalness, where are you? Metallic, good. And then tiling mode, we don't need that on. And then sRGB needs to be raw. And you just ignore the yellow. And then go into color balance and click on alpha's luminance. Go to the next one. Next one is roughness. Go into the roughness file. And we're going to turn this in roughness. There we go. Ooh, that looks nice. And this is raw, and that's also going to be alpha's luminance. Just ignore that yellow. It's like I said 1,000,000 times already. Sorry about that. Just ignore it. A lot of you guys are freaking out. Oh my god, it's yellow. Must be a warning. It is a warning, but just ignore it. Geometry. Bump mapping, yes. File, yes. We don't want it to be a bump, we want it to be a tangent space normal. And this needs to be off. Go ahead and find it. It's up in here. There's the normal map. And let's go ahead and go raw with that. And alpha's lumens is turned off. Okay, everything looks good. Let's go ahead and do a render. This time we're going to do not a HD 1080. We're not ready for that. Let's do a really quick render with all the lowest settings and see how it looks. The scene's all set up. Let's double check with the field chart. So the field chart's up here. Click on that. And we're right in the middle there. Look at on both sides here. We could probably rotate it a little bit, move it out over there. Let's kind of get it centered. And something interesting to look at. Got space between these two, that's good, and then we got this one kind of going into the other one, so it doesn't look too staged. If I were to do that, it would look totally staged. So let's go ahead and bring that over like that, so it doesn't look so staged. We don't, from the top view, we don't want it intersecting. Yeah, see, we're close to intersecting here. There we go. That looks good. Pretty happy with that. Go ahead and click on render. Let's see how it looks. Let me go ahead and pause it because it might take. Go ahead and you can see that the render turned out pretty good. It looks like it's floating a little bit here because we need to have a pretty strong light that's coming in from this side. So I need to place a directional light in here because we need to have a little firmer shadows in here, kind of ground this because we're awful close, but it looks like it's floating, and that's not what we want to see. So let's go ahead and we're going to create a light and a directional light. I'll pull that up, and we need to basically follow the same direction of the light coming in through the room. So the first thing I'm going to do though is with perspective, I'm going to go to view, I'm going to do a bookmark here, edit bookmarks. I'm going to add a new bookmark so I don't lose this camera view by accident. So I'm going to click on new bookmark, and I'm going to rename this to be dog food and underscore cam for camera, and go ahead and apply and close. Right, cool. So I can zoom out, do my thing, rotate around, and see there's the light. The light's coming through that over here. So what I've got to do is I got to match that. So I'm going to zoom out here like this, zoom around, and I've got to match that light. So what I'm going to do, this is what I usually do. Go in here and to match that light, I'm going to scale that up and try to match that light. Right now it's not matched at all. Bring that up like that, and you can see that it's coming from that direction, and that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and scale that down again. Alright, let's see if that looks pretty good. Alright, so let's go back in here. I can go ahead and try to figure that camera out again, but go to view, bookmarks, and then dog food cam, and there it is. Go ahead and render out another version. See what that's happening here. Much better. Okay, good. Alright, so we can see that now it seems grounded, but it still seems like it's off the ground. This is much better. I'm going to go ahead and show you the difference between the two. See if I can, I guess I didn't, I forgot the other one to put it in there, but we're going to go ahead and minimize that for a second, and I'm going to go to the side view, and that's what's wrong. Yeah, that's what I thought. It's not flat. There we go. And this one is not deep enough for shadows, and I'm going to rotate it this way a little bit like that. And let's take another look at it here. I think we're getting closer, and I think that's looking pretty good. You can see the difference here in the shadows too. I like the longer shadows there. Right, so you can see we're getting close. And lighting does take a long time to get it just right. Okay. Alright, so close that. And do I want the background to show? Well, I've got it at 0. Let's go ahead and put it on. Let's take a look at what it looks like. It might, if we get it just right, we can probably get it to blur a little bit into the background to make it look like we've got some depth of field. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. I like the background. I think that's looking nice because it looks like it's a depth of field. I could probably go into Photoshop and fake the rest of the depth of field pretty easily. Just by blurring that a little bit outside of that area. I could do some Photoshop work to blend that together, the edge of this one. So that's probably what I'll do, and that looks really nice actually. It turned out really nice like that. It may not be bright enough. So I might have to fix that in Photoshop too as well. But otherwise it looks really nice. Just a couple little things, you know. That looks good. I like it. I don't like that, what's going on in there. I might be able to fix that in Photoshop too as well. But another thing to remember is that I do a lot of Photoshop work to all my work. You know, you have to fix things up and make it look nicer. But as far as a raw image, as far as turning something in for your first project, that's pretty impressive actually. So let's go ahead and save that right now, and let's go in here as a test, apply and close, file, save, image. Okay, so you saw what I'm doing here. File, save, image, option box, just to make sure that color manage is on, apply and close it, and then you got to save it. Just doing that won't save it. You have to go to save image, and you can tell it what you want to save it as. Save it as a JPEG, that's what I want. And this is the second test, so I'm going to do test 2. Here we go, and render. Alright, this is not our final render, believe it or not. I'm going to do my final render. A lot of times I'll take the background out and then add it later. It saves a lot of problem. Then I set a mask it into Photoshop. To do that, if you want to do that, you can just turn that to 0. 1 shows the background with it, okay? And so if I were to render this out right now, you could do save this. You can save it as a PNG, and that will automatically give you basically an alpha map in the background. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to render the background by itself, and that will give me, and then I can put both of those images together and do all my little fancy little depth of field stuff around the edges here and get it looking perfect. And if I save this, I can go save image and I can go PNG. There we go. And that will be, I can do a test here, food can test, and save. And then I will basically select these guys and put it in a layer, right? That's easy enough. And now I just render this out. And I can actually go in here and turn it up now. So go Control A and bring this up from to a higher intensity, like 0.8. It's about right. Maybe it is. Maybe that's too much. I don't know. But let's see what it looks like when I render it, and I'll render that. Oh, come on. Black? Are you kidding me? Oh, yeah. That needs to be fully on. There we go. That's why it turned black. I've turned it back down again. Right, there we go. There it is. So there's our background image. And you save that, right? And PNG. And we can call this background low, you know, like low resolution, because it is. Alright, and save that. So that can be your background. But we want to do this at the highest settings, right? So I'm going to turn this back down to 0.25 and 0.25, and we want to bring our images back. There we go. So that's back where it was, and then we're going to do full resolution, which is going to be HD 1080, and then at full render settings. And this is going to give you a perfect image, so pretty close to it. So between 5 and 6, I've seen people turn up to 12, which makes no sense at all to me. So I'm going to do 6, and this is going to take you a long time to render. 3 and 3, and then total rays will be 12, diffuse 2, transmission 10, and transparency depth 12. So this is going to take a long time to render, so you can pause the video and get those set up. And I'm going to go ahead and render this, and this will take a while, so I'll be back in a little bit when it finishes. Okay, it's done, and it rendered in 14 minutes 21 seconds. Alright, that's a long time, so make sure you save that. That's full HD. So I'm going to put my first name on it, last name, and food can. I usually put the resolution on here too. Alright, HD, that looks good, and let's just put module for 1. And that looks good. Okay, so you got your front of the can. We're showing a lot of things here. We got the front of the can, the back of the can, which is good, and then the top of the can. So even though it's at a different angle here, I can still see some, you know, some of the bumps in there. And also I want to see it laying down like that. So if you could get it set up like what I have here, you're good to go. Get that lighting, looks good. The material's really reflecting that off nicely. It's not overwhelming, it's not crazy. But I'm really going to let you guys do what you'd like to do as a tabletop. Try to keep it classy, but you know what, have fun. And I'm mainly interested in your food cans, okay? Again, don't get silly, you know. Try to do something realistic. Again, this is all about photorealism, and so I want you to kind of have that mentality as you go through and you render stuff. Okay, I wish you the best of luck, And this is what the image should look like at the very end. Even though you can't find a texture like this, I'm sure you could find something close. And just look for marble. Okay? Alright, have a great week. Again, this is what you're going to turn in. And I'll have in turn in instructions. This is just one image that I'm going to have you guys render. Probably have you render. I don't need wireframe unshaded anymore. I actually don't need the. So this is it. I think all you need to do is turn this in. As long as I have a front view and a back view and a top view like what you have here, if you set it up like mine, then we're good to go. Okay? Get it as close as you can. And then I'll give you artistic freedom for the countertop. But again, we want it to blend in with the entire scene. Okay? Alright, fantastic. Have a great week, and I'll see you in the next one. That's our dagger, module 3. We start the dagger, which is really cool. So I'm going to do low poly, high poly, and then a nice beautiful render of that. Alright, I'll see you then in module 3.